If you or a loved one are struggling with type 2 diabetes, you should visit the link in the description below. This clinically proven, drug-free program lowers blood sugar to a normal level and can completely reverse type 2 diabetes within just a few weeks. Here's today's video.
The question, how do I treat insulin resistance? Answer by Patrick Thied. Insulin resistance. Insulin resistance occurs cells of the body don't respond to insulin. Insulin resistance is the name given to when cells of the body don't respond properly to the hormone insulin. Insulin resistance is the driving factor that leads to type 2 diabetes, gestational diabetes and prediabetes. Insulin resistance is closely associated with obesity. However, it is possible to be insulin resistant without being overweight or obese. Modern research has shown that insulin resistance can be combated by treatment methods that reduce how much insulin the body is producing or taking via insulin injections or insulin pumps. Reducing insulin resistance can be achieved by following low carbohydrate and ketogenic diets. What is insulin resistance? The role of insulin was to allow cells of the body to take in glucose to be used as fuel or stored as body fat. 282. It also means that glucose is more likely to build up in the blood, and this can lead to too high blood sugar levels. When the body becomes resistant to insulin, it tries to cope by producing more insulin. People with insulin resistance are often producing more insulin than to healthy people. Producing too much insulin is known as hyperinsulinemia. Symptoms of insulin resistance. Initially, insulin resistance presents no symptoms. The symptoms only start to appear once it leads to secondary effects such as higher blood sugar levels. When this happens, the symptoms may include other signs that often appear in people with insulin resistance include, if insulin resistance develops into prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, the symptoms will include increased blood glucose levels and more of the classic symptoms of type 2 diabetes. Causes of insulin resistance. While the exact cause of insulin resistance is still not fully understood, it is well known which factors can lead to insulin resistance developing. Insulin resistance can commonly develop if one or more of the following factors apply. In terms of what is happening inside the body that causes insulin resistance, researchers have observed that insulin resistance occurs in people that have. To read more about diabetes, visits the website Learn How to Cure Diabetes Naturally. Answer by Nikki Steinberger. My approach: there is not just one way to treating insulin resistance is to create insulin sensitivity, the opposite of insulin resistance. Think anti-inflammation in meal plan and lifestyle. Moving from an acidic meal plan and lifestyle to an alkalizing meal plan and lifestyle will take you there. Up your organic plant foods, especially leafy greens. Have plenty of raw nuts and seeds on hand: almonds, walnuts, Brazil nuts, sunflower seeds, hemp seeds, and chia seeds. Enjoy antioxidant-rich blackberries, blueberries, and raspberries. Be generous with extra virgin olive oil, avocado, coconut oil, grass-fed butter and eggs, and omega-3 hearty wild salmon and other fatty fish, such as sardines. Attain your stress responses. Practice stress reduction, meditate, walk, breathe deeply, listen or dance to music, cuddle with animals and people, and practice gratitude. Eliminate or greatly decrease flour and processed sugar products, gluten-free or not. Walk hills and/or stairs and get your veggie juicing on. Peaceful healing, Dr. Nikki. Answer by Ron Hunter. Understanding insulin resistance is a good start. You arrive at insulin resistance through a number of factors. For many people, too much fructose and dietary carbohydrate has led to a lot of fat in their livers and insulin resistance first in the liver. This eventually spreads in other tissues in the body, become resistant to the effect of insulin and allowing cells in the body to absorb glucose. It is a progressive disease caused by years and years of the body producing large amounts of insulin. There is a large genetic component to this, but the primary driver is consumption of often refined dietary carbohydrates. To craft a diet, you need to become familiar with two indexes of qualities of food. The first is the glycemic index. This is the measure of the blood sugar impact of certain foods. The scale and index to pure glucose being 100. So, the higher the number, the greater the impact on blood sugar. You want to eat foods that have a low glycemic index. People vary in the tolerance to carbohydrate, but if you're already insulin resistant, then you want to stay as low as possible. I say to stay below 60 for certain. I tend to stay much lower, been diabetic a long time. The other index is the insulin index. This is a measure of the impact foods have on the secretion of insulin in the body. Some of it is actually a bit surprising. There are certain carbohydrate foods that have fairly low impact while certain protein foods have a moderate impact. Again, you want to be lower on the scale. So, now that you are familiar with those two indexes, you need to be careful in your food selection. Do you want to choose foods that have both a low glycemic score and a low insulin score? One food that has almost no impact on blood sugar or insulin is fat. This is the reason that many people choose to treat insulin resistance with a low-carb, high-fat diet. After modifying the diet, you want to do things that increase the insulin sensitivity in the body. This is where doctors will often prescribe the drug metformin. It is a drug that increases insulin sensitivity in the body. Insulin sensitivity being the opposite of insulin resistance. Even if the doctor does not give you a drug, the best way to increase insulin sensitivity is exercise. Don't worry so much about the type, simply get moving and stay moving. Even small things like a small flight of stairs or walking a bit further in the parking lot help. Being diagnosed as insulin resistant is a very large wake-up call. It is telling you that if you do not alter things, you are very likely to end up with full-blown diabetes. Take it seriously and you will add years to your longevity.